Australia just committed $368 billion to nuclear submarines. China called it extremely irresponsible. But here's what they're not telling you. This isn't really about submarines at all. $368 billion. That's enough money to give every Australian $14,000 cash. Instead, they're buying 8 submarines. Why would they do something that sounds absolutely insane? Because in 2021, something changed in the Pacific, and Australia realized they had a massive problem. Look at Australia on a map. It's basically alone. Their closest major ally, the United States, is 10,000 kilometers away. Their biggest trading partner? China, just 7,000 kilometers north. And here's where it gets weird. China buys 30 to 40% of everything Australia exports. That's $150 to $200 billion a year. Australia is economically dependent on China. But militarily, Australia has 6 submarines. China? Around 61. And that number keeps growing. So Australia was stuck in an impossible situation. Stay friends with their bank account or protect their future. They couldn't do both. Then in September 2021, Australia made the boldest move in their modern history. They walked into a room with the US and UK and announced AUKUS. Australia, United Kingdom, United States. But here's the part that shocked the world. Australia canceled a $90 billion submarine deal with France, their ally, with just a phone call. France was so furious they recalled their ambassador. But Australia didn't care, because what they got instead changed everything. Nuclear-powered submarines. Not nuclear weapons, nuclear-powered. And this is a technology only 6 countries have ever mastered. Here's what you need to understand. A regular diesel submarine can stay underwater for maybe 2 weeks before surfacing. A nuclear submarine? 90 days, 3 months, undetected, unlimited range. This means Australia can now patrol from their coast all the way to Taiwan without ever being seen. They go from being a regional player to a Pacific power overnight. And China knows exactly what this means. China's response was immediate and brutal. They called it extremely irresponsible and a path of error and danger. Their state media said Australia was dancing with the wolves. But here's what they really meant behind the diplomatic language. Australia has now chosen a side, and it's not ours. Because here's the secret everyone's avoiding. This isn't about submarines. It's about Taiwan. If China ever moves on Taiwan, these 8 submarines become the most dangerous weapons in the Pacific. They can block shipping lanes, cut off oil supplies, and make any invasion a nightmare. $368 billion isn't buying submarines. It's buying insurance against World War III. But here's the plot twist that changes everything. Australia isn't actually waiting decades for these submarines. Starting in 2032, just 7 years from now, Australia will receive at least 3 Virginia-class nuclear submarines directly from the United States. The Pentagon just confirmed this 3 weeks ago. These are combat-proven hunters already patrolling the Pacific. The full 8 AUKUS submarines, built in Australia, those arrive in the 2040s. But the nuclear power? That starts in 7 years. And China is watching the calendar. But it gets even more interesting. In 2027, just 2 years from now, the US and UK are parking their own nuclear submarines at an Australian base near Perth. It's called Submarine Rotational Force West. Up to 4 American Virginia-class subs and 1 British Astute-class, rotating through Australia starting in 2 years. Australia didn't just buy submarines. They turned their country into a forward operating base for the most advanced submarine fleet on Earth. China's worst nightmare isn't arriving in the 2040s. It's already happening. Now, China tried to stop this. They thought they could break Australia's economy and force them to cancel AUKUS. Starting in 2020, they banned Australian wine, $1 billion lost. Coal imports, $2 billion lost. Barley, $500 million lost. Even beef from Australian processors. $20 billion worth of trade restrictions. China weaponized Australia's economy. It didn't work. By March 2024, China lifted the wine tariffs, then coal, then barley. And just 3 weeks ago, December 3rd, 2024, China removed the final meat bans. Australia called China's bluff and won. Now China is watching Australia arm itself, and they can't do anything about it without destroying their own economy. This is what happens when economic threats meet genuine security fears. Security wins. But here's what the experts aren't telling you. This was never just about Australia. Watch what happened after AUKUS. Japan increased defense spending to 2% of GDP, $70 billion, reached 2 years ahead of schedule. South Korea signed a historic framework with the U.S. in November 2025 to start their own nuclear submarine program. Philippines reopened 4 U.S. military bases that had been closed for decades. India deepened military ties with all of them through the Quad. And Australia? They just unveiled the Ghost Shark, a $1.7 billion fleet of autonomous submarine drones. These things don't need crews. They can hunt for months. They're building them right now in Sydney, and the first one hits the water in January 2026, next month. Australia's submarine deal wasn't a purchase. It was a signal. It told every country in Asia, pick a side. The neutral option is closing. And one by one, they're choosing. China just watched its entire neighborhood turn into a military alliance because of 8 submarines that don't even fully exist yet. So what happens now? 3 scenarios. Scenario 1. China backs down, focuses on economics, and AUKUS becomes the most expensive deterrent in history that never fires a shot. Peace through overwhelming force. Best case. Scenario 2. China accelerates its timeline on Taiwan, trying to move before 2032 when those first American subs arrive in Australian hands. This is what keeps military planners awake at night. We're in the danger zone right now. Scenario 3. The submarines become obsolete before they matter. By 2040, warfare might be all drones, AI swarms, and space weapons. Australia's Ghost Sharks might prove submarines are already outdated. $368 billion on the military equivalent of a DVD player, while China perfects underwater robot armies. The Pentagon just finished a classified review of AUKUS 3 weeks ago. They won't tell us what they found, but they said full steam ahead. Construction is accelerating. Billions are flowing. The submarines are coming. Nobody knows which future we're heading toward, but every intelligence agency in the world is watching. So yes, Australia committed $368 billion to 8 submarines. And yes, China is furious. But the real story? We're watching the Pacific fracture in real time. The post-World War II order is ending. And what started as a submarine deal in 2021 has become the opening move in a new Cold War. In 7 years, Australia gets nuclear submarines. In 2 years, American subs start rotating through Perth. Next month, the first Ghost Shark drone hits the water. And China is watching all of it happen, realizing the window to act is closing. $368 billion. 8 submarines. 7 years until the game changes forever. And the future of half the world's population hanging in the balance. Still think this is just about submarines? If this changed how you see the Pacific, hit subscribe. Because 2026 is going to be critical. What happens in the next 12 months could determine the next 50 years. And what happens next will affect all of us.